Lyra Lay Moonwhisper sat in her small office aboard the elven ship called Starweaver. The blue lights from her computer screen made her pointed ears glow softly in the dark room. As one of the best spy workers for the Elven Empire, she had read many secret files. But this one made her feel worried in a way she had never felt before. The file was about a human soldier named Jake Morrison. He was just a lieutenant commander, not very high rank. But what he had done was impossible. 3 months ago, his small ship had faced an entire enemy fleet. The Krillian Empire had sent 50 warships to destroy him. His ship was already damaged, and had almost no weapons left. But Jake Morrison had held them off for 6 whole hours. He had used tricks and moves that made no sense to normal military thinking. He had made the enemy ships crash into each other. He had used broken parts of his ship as weapons. He had talked to the enemy and made them so angry they made mistakes. When the Krillian soldiers were finally caught, they talked about Morrison like he was some kind of monster. These were tough alien warriors who feared almost nothing, but they shook when they said his name. Lyra Lay read the most strange part again. When the Krillian general was asked how one human could be so dangerous, he had whispered something very quietly. The words were recorded, but they made no sense. Class 13? He trained there. That was his boot camp. Then the general had stopped talking. No matter what the questioners did, he would not say another word about Class 13. He would rather die than talk about it. Lyra Lay heard footsteps in the hallway. The door opened and Captain Amy Rodriguez walked in. Amy was a human who worked with the elves as a friendship officer between their peoples. She was smart and honest, which made her different from many humans Lyra Lay had met. "You look confused," Amy said, sitting down across from Lyra Lay. "What are you reading?" "This file about Jake Morrison," Lyra Lay said. "The Krillians mentioned something called Class 13. Do you know what that is?" Amy's face changed. She looked worried and maybe a little scared. "You have never heard of Class 13, have you?" she asked slowly. "No. Should I have?" "Most humans have not heard of it either," Amy said. "It is classified beyond classified. Even I only know stories and rumors." Before Lyra Lay could ask more questions, a blue light appeared in the middle of the room. The light formed into the shape of a tall woman in a military uniform. It was Commander Vera Sterling, Lyra Lay's boss in the Galactic Intelligence Division. "Moonwhisper," Commander Sterling said. "We have a big problem. We caught some Krillian messages talking about something called Operation Deathblow. They want to attack all human space in one giant battle. But every message they send mentions Class 13 as their biggest worry." Lyra Lay stood up straight. "What do you want me to do?" "We need someone inside Class 13, Sterling said. "Someone who can find out what makes their graduates so scary to our enemies. Someone who can learn if this training could help us win the coming war." "You want me to spy on the humans?" Lyra Lay asked. "I want you to save everyone," Sterling replied. "Because if the Krillians are this afraid of Class 13, maybe we should be learning from it instead of fighting against it." Amy looked back and forth between them. Class 13 is not just any training program. The stories say it is the hardest military school in the galaxy. They say people go in as normal soldiers and come out as something else. Something better and more dangerous. "What kind of something else?" Lyra Lay asked. "Nobody knows for sure," Amy said. "The few people who talk about it use words like superhuman, enhanced, evolved. But these are just stories." Commander Sterling's hologram flickered. "The mission is simple but dangerous, Moonwhisper. We will create a fake identity for you as a human recruit. You will join Class 13 and learn everything you can. But remember, if they find out you are a spy, especially an elf spy, they will probably kill you." Lyra Lay felt her heart beat faster. She had done dangerous missions before, but this felt different. This felt like she was about to step into a place where the normal rules did not work. "How will I pass as human?" she asked. "My ears, my eyes, my whole body is different." "Our medical team can change your appearance," Sterling said. "Surgery and genetic changes that will last for months. You will look human, sound human, even smell human, but inside you will still be you." Amy leaned forward. "There is something else you should know. Class 13 does not just train soldiers. According to the stories, they train weapons. Living weapons that think and adapt and never give up. If the stories are true, you might come out of there changed in ways that cannot be undone. Lyra thought about Jake Morrison holding off 50 enemy ships with just broken metal and clever thinking. She thought about Krillian generals being too scared to talk. She thought about Operation Deathblow and what would happen if the humans lost. "When do I start?" she asked. Commander Sterling smiled for the first time. "Medical begins tomorrow. In 3 weeks you will be Elena Cross, human recruit reporting to Training Complex Omega-7. But Lyra, remember this. Class 13 might be humanity's greatest secret. Learning it might change everything we know about what people can become." After Sterling's hologram disappeared, Amy and Lyra sat in silence. Finally, Amy spoke. "My grandmother used to tell stories about the old days before humans joined the galactic community. She said humans were different then, harder, more dangerous. She said joining civilization made humans safer, but also weaker. Maybe Class 13 is where they remember how to be dangerous again." Lyra looked out the window at the stars. Soon she would be walking among humans, learning their secrets, discovering what made them so feared by their enemies. She did not know that she was about to learn something that would change not just her understanding of humans, but her understanding of what any person could become when pushed beyond their limits. The mission was simple. Get in, learn, get out. But as she would soon discover, nothing about Class 13 was simple, and getting out might not be possible at all. Month 2 brought changes that Lyra had not expected. The surviving recruits were now allowed to access deeper parts of the training complex. What she found in those lower levels made her question everything she knew about science and reality. The elevators went down much farther than should be possible. The mountain was not just a mountain, it was hollow, filled with levels and levels of technology that should not exist according to what the galaxy knew about human science. Neural enhancement chambers lined the walls of one level. They looked like medical beds surrounded by machines that hummed with power. Dr. Rebecca Taylor, who ran this section, explained their purpose with casual words that described impossible things. "These chambers can increase processing speed by factor of 10, she said, showing the recruits around. "A human brain normally processes information at a certain rate. These machines help you think faster, see patterns that normal minds cannot see, hold multiple tactical scenarios in your head at the same time." Marcus Webb, who had become Lyra's training partner, raised his hand. "Is it safe?" Dr. Taylor smiled. "Define safe. You will not die. But you will not be the same person who went in. The question is whether you are brave enough to become something better." Another level contained gravity manipulation training rooms. Recruits fought in conditions where gravity changed every few seconds. One moment you weighed nothing and floated in the air. The next moment you weighed 10 times normal and could barely move. Learning to fight in these conditions taught the body and mind to adapt to anything. But the most disturbing level was the temporal combat simulators. Lyra could not understand how they worked, but they seemed to bend time itself. Recruits were dropped into historical battles from human history. Sometimes they just watched. Sometimes they participated as if they were really there. She found herself standing on ancient battlefields, learning tactics from generals who had been dead for thousands of years. She watched Alexander the Great explain how to use cavalry charges. She saw Napoleon describe how to use artillery. She learned from Sun Tzu about the importance of knowing your enemy. But these were not just recordings or simulations. Somehow the technology let them actually learn from these historical figures. The knowledge went directly into their minds, becoming part of how they thought about combat. Marcus Webb noticed her confusion after one session, where they had learned siege tactics from a Roman general. "You know what makes humans different from every other species in the galaxy?" he asked. They were sitting in the recruit dining hall, eating food that tasted better than it should. Everything about Class 13 was designed to keep them healthy and strong, even while pushing them beyond normal limits. What do you mean? Lyra Lee asked. Every other race reached the stars through cooperation, Marcus said. His eyes had changed over the weeks. They were deeper now, older. They built on their strengths. They worked together. They made things easier for themselves. He took a bite of food and continued. Humans got to the stars by surviving our weaknesses, by thriving in conditions that should have killed us. Earth is a death world compared to most planets. Gravity too strong, weather too violent, predators too dangerous. But instead of making us weak, it made us tough. Lyra Lee thought about her home world of Elfheim. Beautiful forests, perfect weather, no dangerous animals. Her people had evolved in paradise compared to Earth. Class 13 takes that human ability and makes it extreme, Marcus continued. We are not just learning to fight. We are learning to become the kind of beings that can win against any enemy, in any condition, against any odds. Dr. Taylor approached their table. She had been watching the recruits more closely lately, especially Lyra Lee. Elena Cross, she said. I would like to speak with you privately. Lyra Lee followed the doctor to a small office. Her heart was beating fast. Had they discovered she was not human? Your neural patterns are interesting, Dr. Taylor said, showing Lyra Lee readings from the enhancement chambers. Most humans show certain patterns when their brains are enhanced. But you show something different, almost like you are processing information through multiple cognitive frameworks at the same time. Is that bad? Lyra Lee asked, trying to sound concerned instead of terrified. Not bad, just unusual. Your brain seems naturally suited for the kind of multidimensional thinking we are trying to develop. It is almost like you already have some of the capabilities we are trying to create. Lyra Lee felt ice in her stomach. Her elven brain was different from human brains. The enhancement technology was revealing those differences. I want to run some additional tests, Dr. Taylor said. Nothing dangerous, just some scans to understand how your mind works. Of course, Lyra Lee said. She had no choice. That night, she used her spy training to access restricted computer files. What she found in the classified databases made her realize that Class 13 was even more dangerous than she had imagined. The program was not training soldiers for the current war against the Krillians. They were preparing for something much worse. The files talked about something called the Convergence, a time when hostile forces from beyond the galaxy would arrive in overwhelming numbers. According to the documents, humanity had known this was coming for decades. Deep space monitoring. Stations had detected signs of massive fleets moving between galaxies. These fleets had already consumed several galaxies, leaving nothing but empty space behind. Class 13 was humanity's answer to this threat. They were creating warriors who could fight enemies that had not even been identified yet. Enemies who might be more advanced, more numerous, and more ruthless than anything the galaxy had seen before. The enhancement technology was not just making recruits better soldiers. It was making them into a new kind of human being. One that could evolve and adapt faster than any threat could evolve to counter them. But the most shocking discovery was in a file marked Project Evolution. Class 13 was not just one training facility. There were dozens of them scattered across human space. Each one was experimenting with different enhancement techniques: neural augmentation, genetic modification, technological integration, even some experiments that seemed to involve psychic abilities. The goal was to create multiple types of enhanced humans, different kinds of soldiers for different kinds of threats. Some would be perfect for space combat, others for ground assault, still others for infiltration and intelligence work. Lyra Lee realized with growing horror that she was not just observing this process. She was becoming part of it. The enhancement chambers, the gravity training, the temporal simulations, they were all changing her at a fundamental level. Her elven physiology was adapting to the human enhancement protocols in ways no one had anticipated. She was becoming something that was neither fully elf nor fully human, but something new. And according to the files, this was exactly what humanity needed. Warriors who could bridge the gap between species, who could lead alliance forces when the real enemy arrived. As she made her way back to the recruit barracks, Lyra Lee understood that her mission had changed. She was no longer just gathering intelligence about human capabilities. She was becoming one of those capabilities. The question was whether she would survive the process, and whether the person who emerged would still care about her original mission at all. In the darkness of her bunk, listening to the breathing of 40 other recruits who were all being transformed into something beyond their original selves, Lyra Lee wondered if she would still be herself when Class 13 was finished with her, or if being herself was something she could afford to remain when the galaxy's survival might depend on becoming something more. 3 weeks later, Lyra Lee stood on the surface of a planet that seemed designed to kill everything living on it. The world was called Kepler 442c, but the humans who trained here called it Hell. She could see why. The sky was the color of old blood. Rain fell from the clouds, but it was not water. It was acid that could burn through metal. The air was so thick it felt like breathing soup. Mountains rose around the training base like giant teeth, sharp and black against the red sky. Lyra Lee's body was different now. The elf surgeons had done their work well. Her pointed ears were gone, replaced by round human ones. Her silver eyes were now brown. Even her height had been changed to match human normal. When she looked in mirrors, she saw Elena Cross, a young human woman from Earth. But inside, she still felt like herself. She stood with 40 other new recruits, in front of the main gate of Training Complex Omega-7. The building looked like a fortress made of black metal and hard angles. No windows, no decoration. Just walls that looked like they could stop anything. The gate opened with a sound like thunder. A woman walked out. She was not tall, but everything about her said danger. Scars covered her arms and face like a map of old battles. Her eyes were the color of winter ice and just as cold. "I am drill instructor Katie Murphy," the woman said. Her voice carried across the group like a whip crack. "Welcome to hell, maggots. 90% of you will not make it past the first month. Class 13 does not create soldiers. It forges weapons." The recruits looked at each other. Some seemed scared. Others looked excited. A few, like Lyra Lee, just tried to understand what they had gotten themselves into. Murphy walked along the line of recruits like a predator studying prey. "You think you know what hard training is? You think your homeworld boot camps were tough? You know nothing. Here, we will break you down to nothing. Then we will build you back up into something your enemies will have nightmares about." She stopped in front of a big recruit who looked very confident. "What is your name, recruit?" "Marcus Webb, ma'am," the man said. He stood straight and proud. "Marcus Webb," Murphy repeated. "Tell me, Marcus Webb, what makes you special?" "I was top of my class in military academy, ma'am. I scored perfect on all physical tests. I can shoot better than anyone in my unit." Murphy smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Marcus Webb, in 1 month you will either be dead, insane, or begging to go home. The academy taught you to be a good little soldier. We are going to teach you to be something that makes soldiers wet themselves in fear." She moved to the next recruit, then the next. When she reached Lyra Lee, those cold eyes studied her for a long moment. "Elena Cross," Murphy said, reading from a small device. "From Earth. No military background. Why are you here?" Lyra Lee had practiced this answer many times. "I want to serve, ma'am. I want to be the best I can be." "Serving is easy," Murphy said. "Any fool can serve. We are not here to make you serve. We are here to make you into something that can win impossible fights against impossible odds. Are you ready for that, Elena Cross?" "Yes, ma'am." Murphy stared at her for another moment, then moved on. But Lyra Lee felt like those eyes had looked right through her fake appearance and seen something underneath. The first day was worse than anything Lyra Lee had imagined. They ran for hours across ground that tried to cut their feet. They crawled through mud that burned their skin. They carried heavy packs up mountains while the acid rain tried to eat through their clothes. But the physical training was not the worst part. The worst part was that none of the recruits were allowed to sleep. Hour after hour, day after day, they were kept awake. When someone fell down from exhaustion, they were dragged to a medical station, given drugs to wake them up, and sent back to training. By day 3, some recruits were seeing things that were not there. By day 5, 2 had tried to quit. But quitting was not allowed. The only way out was to complete the program or die trying. Lorelei watched the other recruits and saw something that amazed her. Instead of breaking down completely, they were adapting. Marcus Webb, who had been so proud on the first day, now moved like a machine. His eyes had changed. They were sharper, more focused. He seemed to see everything around him at once. A woman named Lisa Kim had started the training as a small, quiet person. Now she moved through the obstacle courses like flowing water. She could climb walls that should have been impossible to climb. She could jump distances that should have been too far. But the strangest change was in how they thought. During combat exercises, the recruits began using tactics that made no sense but somehow worked. They would attack from directions that seemed stupid, then turn those attacks into brilliant victories. They started thinking 3 and 4 steps ahead of their enemies. Dr. Lisa Chen ran the medical station where recruits were checked every few days. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but when she looked at the recruits, her expression was like a scientist studying interesting animals. Human neuroplasticity is remarkable, she told Lorelei during a medical check. Under extreme stress, the human brain does not just adapt. It rewrites itself. It develops new neural pathways. It becomes something more than baseline human. What do you mean? Lorelei asked, trying to sound like a curious recruit instead of a spy. Your brain is changing, Dr. Chen said simply. All of your brains are changing. The stress, the lack of sleep, the constant challenges are forcing your minds to evolve. In a few weeks, you will think faster, see more, understand combat in ways that normal people cannot. Lorelei felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold mountain air. Her elven brain was different from human brains. What would this training do to her? As the days passed, she began to understand why other species feared Class 13 graduates. The surviving recruits moved with predatory grace. They thought with crystal clarity even when exhausted. They could look at a battlefield and immediately see dozens of tactical possibilities. But the real shock came at the end of the first month. Lorelei was walking past the instructor buildings when she heard voices through an open window. She recognized Murphy's voice and another woman she had not met before. The Krillians do not know the half of it, Murphy was saying. Class 13 is not our most advanced program. It is just the one we let them find out about. The deeper levels are ready? The other voice asked. Ready and waiting, Murphy replied. When these recruits are ready for the next phase, they will learn what Class 13 really is. They think this first month was hard? They have no idea what we are going to do to them next. Lorelei felt her blood turn cold. This hellish training that had nearly killed half the recruits was just the beginning. What could be worse than what they had already endured? As she walked back to the recruit barracks, she realized something that terrified her. She was not just learning about Class 13. The training was changing her, just like it was changing the human recruits. Her elven senses were sharper. Her reflexes were faster. Her mind was working in new ways. She was becoming something different, something that might not be elf or human, but something else entirely. And she was only 1 month into a program that might last much longer. The worst part was that she was starting to like what she was becoming. The truth hit Lorelei like a plasma weapon blast to the chest when she finally accessed the core archives. She had spent weeks slowly breaking through the security systems, using her enhanced abilities and spy training. What she found changed everything she thought she knew about human history. Class 13 was not humanity's newest program. It was their oldest. The facility had been running for over a century, hidden from galactic civilization since before humans, had even joined the galactic community. For generations, they had been refining techniques for creating super soldiers. Every major human victory in recent galactic conflicts could be traced back to Class 13 graduates working in secret. The miracle tactical decisions that had saved human colonies. The impossible survival rates in battles where humans should have been destroyed. The uncanny ability of human commanders to predict enemy movements. All of it came from here. Jake Morrison, the pilot who had held off the Krillian fleet, was just one of thousands. There were Class 13 graduates hidden throughout human space, serving in normal military positions, waiting for the moment when their true abilities would be needed. But the biggest shock was still coming. "Elena Cross," a voice said behind her. "Or should I say Lyrelei Moonwhisper of the Elven Dominion Intelligence Corps?" Lyrelei spun around, her enhanced reflexes moving her body before her mind could catch up. Standing in the doorway was a woman she had never seen before. Tall, silver-haired, with eyes that seemed to see through everything. She wore the uniform of a high-ranking commander. "I am Commander Grace Williams," the woman said with a calm smile. "The true director of this facility. And before you ask, yes, we have known exactly who you are since before you set foot on this planet." Lyrelei's mind raced through possibilities. Fight? Run? Try to bluff? But Williams continued speaking before she could act. "In fact, we have been hoping someone like you would come." The room around them changed. Walls became transparent, revealing that they were not in a small archive room but in a vast command center. Holographic displays filled the space, showing star charts marked with ominous red zones. "The Krillians are not the real threat," Williams said, walking to the largest display. "They are refugees, running from something that consumed their original, home galaxy. The Devourers are coming, Lyrelei, and when they arrive, every species in this galaxy will need warriors like our Class 13 graduates to survive." The display showed data that made Lyrelei's blood turn cold. Entire galaxies reduced to empty space, fleets of ships larger than solar systems, energy signatures that suggested weapons capable of destroying stars. "We estimate 18 months before the advanced scouts arrive," Williams continued. 2 years before the main force, the Krillians know this. Their desperate attacks on human space are not conquest attempts. They are testing our defenses, trying to see if we are strong enough to be allies instead of competitors for hiding places. "Why are you telling me this?" Lyrelei asked. Williams turned to face her. "Because your people already know about the Devourer threat. They have known for decades, and they have been secretly negotiating surrender terms." The words hit Lyrelei like physical blows. "That is impossible." "Is it?" Williams touched a control and new displays appeared. Intercepted communications between the Elven High Council and unknown entities. Trade agreements for resources in exchange for protection services. Maps showing human space marked as acceptable lost zones. "Your people sent you here not to gather intelligence about our capabilities," Williams said softly. "They sent you to sabotage our preparations. The Elven Dominion believes that if human military capability is reduced, the Devourers will be satisfied with consuming our space and leave the rest of the galaxy alone." Lyrelei felt sick. "No, they would not sacrifice billions of people." "Would they not? The High Council has decided that human space can be offered as tribute to buy time for the rest of the galaxy to find other solutions. Your mission orders included secondary objectives you were not told about. Sabotage training equipment, introduce computer viruses, cause accidents that would set back the program." Williams showed her a document that made Lyrelei's hands shake. It was her real mission briefing, the one her handlers had never shown her. Every line was about destruction and delay, not intelligence gathering. "The question is," Williams said, "knowing what you know now, will you complete that mission, or will you help us save everyone?" Before Lyrelei could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as emergency broadcasts filled the air. "Alert! Alert! Krillian attack fleet detected approaching system. All personnel to battle stations, this is not a drill." Williams moved quickly to a command console. "They are early. We expected them to wait another month before testing our defenses." Through the transparent walls, Lyrelei could see the training facility transforming. Walls slid away to reveal weapon systems. The mountain itself was opening like a flower, exposing defense platforms and launch bays. "Time to see if our training works in real combat," Williams said. "Class 13 graduates to your positions." Marcus Webb and the other advanced recruits ran past, no longer looking like students but like professional soldiers. Their movements were precise, their faces calm. The terrified recruits who had arrived months ago were gone, replaced by people who moved like they had been born for war. "What about me?" Lyrelei asked. Williams handed her a weapon and a communication device. Fight alongside your classmates, protect this facility, and decide which future you want to help create. The attack came in waves. Krillian ships descended from orbit, their weapons turning the mountain peaks around the facility into clouds of glowing dust. But the facility's defenses were beyond anything Lyrale had imagined. Energy shields that could turn aside planet-killing weapons, gravity weapons that crushed attacking ships into metal balls, and most impressive of all, the Class 13 graduates themselves. Lyrale found herself fighting beside Marcus and the others, using tactics that seemed to come from some deep part of her mind she had never accessed before. Her enhanced elven senses combined with her human training to create something entirely new. She moved through the battle like a dancer, anticipating enemy moves before they happened. Her weapon never seemed to miss. Her mind held the entire battlefield, in perfect focus, seeing patterns and opportunities that normal warriors would never notice. Around her, the other graduates were equally impressive. They fought as individuals but moved like parts of a single organism. When one was threatened, others appeared to help. When opportunities arose, they were exploited instantly and perfectly. The Krillian attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, not a single enemy ship remained functional. But more importantly, Lyrale had seen something that changed her understanding of what the galaxy was facing. The Krillians had not been trying to win. They had been testing, learning, gathering data about human capabilities to send back to their real masters. As she stood among the wreckage, still holding her weapon, Lyrale realized that the choice Williams had offered her was not really a choice at all. The Elven Dominion's plan would not save anyone. It would just delay the inevitable while the Devourers grew stronger. Class 13 represented something different, not just better soldiers, but evolution itself. The ability to become whatever was needed to survive. Have you decided? Williams asked, appearing beside her. Lyrale looked at Marcus and the other graduates. They were checking their weapons, treating their wounded, preparing for the next attack. But they were not afraid. They had become the kind of people who could face anything and find a way to win. What happens if I say yes? She asked. You undergo the final enhancement protocols, Williams said, the ones designed to work with non-human physiology. You become the bridge between species that we need to unite the galaxy. And if I say no? You return to your people with the knowledge that their plan will doom everyone they are trying to protect. Lyrale thought about her beautiful homeworld, about her people's ancient wisdom and peaceful ways, about the High Council members who believed they could negotiate with forces that had consumed entire galaxies. Then she thought about the Devourers, moving between stars like a plague, leaving nothing but emptiness behind them. When do we start? She asked. Williams smiled, but it was a sad smile. The moment you undergo the final protocols, there will be no going back. You will become something that has never existed before. Part elf, part enhanced human, part something entirely new. Will I still be me? You will be everything you are now, plus everything you need to be to help save the galaxy. Whether that counts as still being you is a question only you can answer. Lyrale looked up at the stars where somewhere in the darkness, an enemy beyond, imagination was coming closer every day. The choice was no choice at all. Let's begin, she said. The final enhancement chamber looked like a tomb made of crystal and metal. Dr. Sarah Blake, the facility's chief enhancement specialist, checked the readouts one more time before looking at Lyrale with serious eyes. We have never tried this on a non-human, she said honestly. Your elven physiology might adapt to the human enhancement protocols, or it might reject them completely. You could emerge as something beyond either species, or you could die in ways that would be very unpleasant. Lyrale lay on the enhancement table, feeling machines connect to her body through dozens of small needles. The process would take 72 hours. Her entire genetic code would be rewritten. Her nervous system would be rebuilt. Even her bones and muscles would be changed at the cellular level. What exactly will happen to me? She asked. Dr. Blake activated the monitors around the table. Your brain will be enhanced to process information at superhuman speeds. Your reflexes will be improved beyond normal limits. Your body will be able to heal from injuries that would kill baseline humans. But most importantly, you will gain something we call adaptive evolution. What does that mean? It means you will be able to change yourself in response to threats. Face a new enemy, and your mind will automatically develop new tactics. Encounter a new environment, and your body will adapt to survive in it. You will become someone who can evolve in real time. Williams appeared beside the enhancement chamber. The Devourer advanced scouts have been detected at the galaxy's edge. We are out of time for gradual preparation. This enhancement process will either give us the bridge between species that we need, or we will lose our best chance to unite the galaxy against the real threat. The chamber began to hum with power. Lyralei felt her consciousness start to fade as the machines took control of her body. The last thing she saw was Marcus Webb and the other Class 13 graduates standing guard around the chamber, ready to protect her during the vulnerable transformation process. The first day was pain beyond description. Every cell in her body was being torn apart and rebuilt. Her elven DNA was being combined with human genetic patterns and something else entirely, enhancement codes that had been developed through decades of experimentation. Her enhanced hearing picked up conversations around the facility as her body changed. The Krillian attack had been just the beginning. Reports were coming in of similar attacks on other training facilities throughout human space. The enemy was testing all of humanity's defenses simultaneously. But worse news came from intercepted communications. The Elven High Council had begun withdrawing their ships from border systems shared with human space. They were pulling back, leaving humans to face the coming storm alone. On the second day, Lyralei's consciousness expanded in ways that made no sense. She could feel the thoughts of other enhanced humans throughout the facility, not reading their minds, but sensing their emotional states, their tactical awareness, their readiness for combat. More disturbing, she began to understand things that should have been impossible, mathematical equations that described faster-than-light travel, engineering principles for weapons that could crack planets, tactical theories that applied to warfare between galaxies instead of just between planets. The knowledge was not being taught to her. It was growing inside her mind like a flower opening, as if the enhancement process was unlocking potential that had always been there. Dr. Blake monitored her progress with growing amazement. Her brain activity is off the charts, she told Williams. She is not just adapting to the enhancement protocols, she is improving them. Her elven neural structure is optimizing the human enhancement patterns in real time. On the third day, everything changed. Lyralei woke up feeling like she had been born again in a body that was both familiar and completely alien. Her senses could detect things that had no names. She could see energy patterns around electronic devices. She could hear conversations happening miles away. She could smell the emotional states of people in distant rooms. But the mental changes were even more dramatic. When she looked at the star charts showing Devourer fleet movements, she immediately saw patterns that the analysis computers had missed. Weaknesses in their formations, predictable behaviors that could be exploited. How do you feel? Dr. Blake asked. Different, Lyralei said. Her voice sounded the same, but there was something underneath it now, a harmonic that suggested vast depths. But also more myself than I have ever been. Williams entered the medical bay with urgent news. We have a problem. Long-range sensors have detected the Devourer advance fleet. They are moving faster than our calculations predicted. They will reach the outer rim of the galaxy in 6 months, not 18. What about the main fleet? Lyralei asked. 12 months behind the advance fleet. But the advance fleet alone has more ships than the entire Galactic Alliance combined. Lyralei stood up from the medical table, her new body moving with liquid grace. Every movement was perfectly balanced, every gesture economical and precise. Then we need to change our strategy. We cannot meet them in direct combat. What do you suggest? Williams asked. Lyralei walked to the strategic displays, her enhanced mind immediately grasping tactical possibilities that would have taken teams of analysts weeks to develop. We turn the galaxy itself into a weapon, use stellar engineering to create traps, modify planets into fortress worlds, make every star system a killing ground that gets more dangerous the deeper they penetrate. She touched the displays, and her ideas flowed into the computers through the neural interface. Battle plans that spanned hundreds of star systems. Engineering projects that would require the cooperation of every species in the galaxy. Tactical innovations that combined the best of every civilization's military knowledge. "This is brilliant," Williams said, studying the plans. "But it requires perfect cooperation between species that have been fighting each other for centuries." "That is where I come in," Lyreley said. "I am no longer just elf or just enhanced human. I am something that can speak to every species in their own language, understand their fears and motivations, and convince them that working together is their only chance for survival." The test of her new abilities came sooner than expected. As she was reviewing the tactical plans, alarms sounded again throughout the facility. But this time the attack was not coming from space. "Infiltration detected," the security systems announced. "Unidentified beings have breached the lower levels." Williams and her staff rushed to the monitors. What they saw defied explanation. The infiltrators were not Krillian. They were something else entirely. Tall, pale beings that moved through the facility's defenses like they were not there. "Devourer scouts," Williams said grimly. "They are already here." The beings moved with purpose toward the enhancement laboratories. They were after the technology that had created Class 13 graduates. If they could steal or destroy it, humanity's advantage would be lost. "All Class 13 graduates to combat positions," Williams ordered. "Defend the enhancement labs at all costs." But Lyreley was already moving. Her new abilities told her exactly where the infiltrators were going and what they planned to do. She could sense their alien thoughts, cold and logical and utterly without mercy. The battle in the facility's lower levels was unlike anything that had happened before. The Devourer scouts were fast, smart, and equipped with weapons that seemed to bend reality around them. But Lyreley and the Class 13 graduates were no longer bound by normal human limitations. Marcus Webb moved like lightning, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge energy blasts that moved at nearly the speed of light. Other graduates used tactics that seemed to come from some shared tactical consciousness, coordinating perfectly without communication. But it was Lyreley who turned the tide. Her hybrid nature allowed her to understand the alien scouts in ways that purely human minds could not. She could predict their movements, counter their strategies, even communicate with them in ways that confused and disrupted their coordination. When the battle was over, 3 scouts had been captured alive. For the first time, the galaxy had prisoners who could provide intelligence about the Devourer forces. "Interrogate them," Williams ordered. "No need," Lyreley said. Her enhanced abilities had already extracted what they needed from the scouts' alien minds. "I know everything they know." What she had learned changed everything. The Devourers were not just conquerors. They were refugees themselves, fleeing something even worse from outside the known universe. Their consumption of galaxies was not motivated by hunger or greed, but by desperate need for resources to build defenses against an enemy that had already destroyed their original home. "They can be reasoned with," Lyreley said. "They do not want to destroy this galaxy. They want to fortify it, but their methods would still kill billions of people." Williams stared at the tactical displays with new understanding. "So we have a choice. Help them build their defenses and save some of the galaxy's population, or fight them and risk losing everything." "There is a third option," Lyreley said. "We convince them to work with us instead of conquering us. Show them that this galaxy species can contribute more as allies than as victims." "How?"